And for more insights, we're joined now by Lance Gore, who is a senior research fellow at the East Asian Institute at the National University of Singapore. Now, Lance, in your recent analysis on the party, you mentioned that an unprecedented third term for President Xi is needed for China's political development to grow. But some consider this to be a sign of descent into dictatorship. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, in a way, yeah, Xi Jinping's prolonged rule can be called a dictatorship. But on the other hand, I think China is in an inflection point that it is searching for new direction, for consistency, for his policy programs and for his guiding ideology. So the previous party congress, 19th Party Congress in 2017, has endorsed Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. So this is a continuation. That's 5 years ago. And 5 years after 5 years practice, I think they decided they will continue with this line. And if you continue with this line, then Xi Jinping thought without Xi Jinping at the helm is hard to imagine.
And speaking of which, in that case, what next do we see for Mr. Xi then? Can we expect a fourth term and then on and again?
Fourth term, I'm not sure. A lot of people say he'll, continue until he couldn't carry on. I would say if he is smart enough, I think a fourth term will be enough to get things settled, get the policies and the personnel institution firmed. Therefore, that will be the time to hand over to new fresh blood, new energy, rather than, like Putin, lasting longer than people would like can tolerate. That's detrimental to him. So I hope he will not succumb to the power corruption, which very few human beings can resist. But like former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew said, he's a guy with tough character at the rank of Nelson Mandela. So I hope he can also stay clear-headed on how long he should stay in place.
And also, talking about that tough character, he's also highlighted in his speech that China will accelerate the building of a world-class military and also a strong strategic deterrent. What is the main goal here? Are we looking at it trying to end U.S. supremacy? Is it focused on reunification with Taiwan? What's about to happen from here?
I think this is mostly reaction to internal factors like history, like the nationalism, rising nationalism sentiment, rather than some kind of ambition. Externally, of course, we notice that China, since Xi Jinping came to power, its external environment deteriorated dramatically. Just a few years ago, it's unimaginable that Western countries are thinking about decoupling from China, because China is such a large part of this globalization, central place. That means Xi Jinping's line, Xi Jinping's policy, Xi Jinping's way of ruling is not welcomed or tolerated by the Western countries. Therefore, we want to, contain China, suppress China before it becomes too powerful. Therefore, China has to react to that. Because that means increased both hard power and soft power pressure on China, and China has to respond. China does not have a lot of soft power, and hard power, because of its economy, it can do a lot to improve. So I think China's overall is on the defensive rather than, prompted by ambitions of world domination.
And speaking of which, Mr. Xi has vowed to never commit to abandoning the use of force on Taiwan. Does playing the armed reunification card actually risk undermining China's national rejuvenation? How will Xi Jinping balance the two goals?
Well, it's a tough call. It's really a tough call. I wouldn't be in his position. Of course, I would say, Taiwan is a very, very central issue for China, for Xi Jinping's stability of his rule. That's very important. But on the other hand, national rejuvenation is more important. I think he would agree. It is more important whether China is, whether Taiwan issue is going to hold back China. If China does not reunite with Taiwan, would I consider national rejuvenation? Of course, that's debatable. But I think most people will agree. Taiwan is a side issue. China national rejuvenation is a much larger project, and Taiwan issue can be solved when China really become a top dog in world politics. That Taiwan issue will be less formidable if China achieves its national rejuvenation first.
Lance, we really appreciate your insights. That was Lance Gore, who is Senior Research Fellow at the East Asian Institute at the National University of Singapore.